The Turn On Your Inner Light show. It's time to stop just surviving, and it's time to begin to thrive. It's time to live happier and healthier. Turn stress into strength. Noted author Debbie Mandel will show you how to move beyond personal doubts and fears and into positive perception to turn on your inner light. Here's your host, Debbie Mandel.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to my show. Our guest expert is Russell Friedman, co-director of the Grief Recovery Institute and co-author of Moving Beyond Loss. So much of recovery from grief really depends on the answers we get to our questions. Welcome, Russell.
Hi. Great to hear your voice again.
Oh, what a pleasure. Aren't you a sweetheart? You cheer
I
people
hope so.
up. Yeah, you cheer people up. You have this hearty laugh for a grief counselor. Amazing.
Yeah.
Now, how can bystanders deal with the grief? I know now because of Newtown, Connecticut, and what happened at the Sandy Hook Elementary School, you've been beleaguered with interviews and questions about the people immersed in grief. But I want to begin with bystanders because everyone I speak to in New York is so affected by it. It's contagious.
It really is. And really, it's a universal reaction to national or international or worldwide tragedies. I write articles. I read a lot of articles that are published all over the world. And I have had occasion, I believe, 5 times, Debbie, to use either as a headline or as a subtitle this phrase, because we are the family of humankind. Let me say that again. Because we are the family of humankind. And that is why, as bystanders, look, none of us knew anybody, but very few people that you or I know knew anybody who died on the Columbia Space Shuttle disaster. Very few of us knew any of the people who died in in the Indian Ocean with the tsunami in 2004. Very few, on Christmas Eve, or the Christmas Day night, the 26th. The 9/11, some people back east knew some of the people in the buildings who died, but the rest of us, the 300 million of us, didn't know the people, yet we were impacted beyond belief. And when Aurora, Colorado in the theater, now in Sandy Hook at Newtown, we are all decimated by this. It is negatively enhanced by the fact that the vast majority of the victims were children, which we can talk about the reason why that negatively impacted us even more than other tragedies. But as human beings, we automatically think of people in our lives. We all know children. We all have been children. We have children. We have relatives. Therefore, the children dying hits us. When Ronald Reagan died, I was on CNN with Anderson Cooper, and we talked about the fact that even if you didn't like Ronald Reagan as a man or as a president, as an actor, you were affected because he was a national figure, and it made the news of his death made your brain go, oh my gosh, that's sad. What do I know about sad? And you would think of your grandfather who died, or even your dog who died, or your divorce, because these events trigger our feelings, and because unresolved grief is cumulative and cumulatively negative, and because time doesn't necessarily heal emotional wounds, what brings to the surface is all of our feelings. Not that we're all crippled or unresolved, but it brings up our humanity, which as it relates to grief or loss. So the bystander thing is actually a naturally occurring phenomenon, and we need it. We need that thing. Otherwise, we'd be a tree or a stick. We wouldn't be a human. As humans, we respond to human tragedy.
So what you're saying to me is grief softens the edges and activates our compassion. But let me play devil's advocate for a moment. How is the media handling this? Are they fueling our grief? And are we like those that stand and watch a fire happen? I'm not a firefighter. I'm not a physician. Am I kind of standing there, fascinated, obsessed with the details? Because I think from the other point of view, we have to move towards something positive, and people are fixated on looking for the horror. What do you think of that, Russell? Is that cynical,
I think a lot
or?
of thoughts, and Debbie, there's a lot of things in there. So let me go back to the first one and of your thought pattern there, which was the media. And of course, you are part of the media, and so am I, as a person being interviewed constantly. But I do have some very strong feelings and some negative ones about the kind of role the major media play in these things. Not what you and I are doing, but we'll excuse ourselves.
Of course, we're above suspicion.
And we are magnificent in our own right. 19 years ago, the day before Thanksgiving, my mother died suddenly. I flew on Thanksgiving Day to Florida. My family was there, my siblings, their spouses, the grandkids. I think there were 14 or 15 of us in the immediate party. And what I can tell you is that when there's a grief in your family or mine, our family circles the wagons. It is a private event for those of us who are most intimately involved. Sometimes there's a widening of the ripples of the people who might be included in that immediate circle. Sometimes if we are a church family or a temple family or maybe AA or other organizations, we have an extended family. But when my mother died, the world wasn't there. I didn't want CNN there. I didn't want the world in there. It was about our personal memories of someone who meant something to us. So a part of me is always horrified and offended by the media rushing in and making an event with this tragic event into a spectacle, because it can't help doing it. That's what the media does. It's the killing of the century. It's like the storm of the century. And what I'm always afraid of, which I think happened to a certain degree with 9/11, is that the people involved here and their grief become a footnote in history. In other words, the event itself becomes larger than their unique relationships with their children or family or friends who died, because not everybody was children. And that's what always scares me. And the media can't do anything but be what it is. It's a huge monolithic kind of thing. The people have feelings, but they're trying to do what they're doing, and I just don't think it should be public. And again, here I am on a radio show, but I'm going to talk about educating people. I'm not about bringing the families in. I'm not about interviewing the relatives and friends. I find that almost ghoulish in a way. And again, I know I'm speaking a bit firmly here, but I have seen the impact on this on the people. I'm the one at the other end helping the people who were decimated not only by the event, but by it being publicized. But they're just exposing everything. That's none of the public's business. So
because some people are very private. When I grieved over the death of my parents, I didn't let people in, and I processed it in my own time, in my own way. Some people need community. I know that when I read the book, Moving Beyond Loss, and the questions and the answers, some people do very well with that, and other people process the waves of grief according to their own. And that's why I want to turn a corner with the interview now, away from this community and into the healing process. Well, we go to commercial break, and we will return with Russell Friedman, co-author of Moving Beyond Loss.
Now you can take Debbie Mandel home with you. Her book, Turn On Your Inner Light, Fitness for Body, Mind, and Soul, will help you decompress with healthy, positive, concrete solutions. Common life challenges are presented so that you can quickly find the help you need. Emotional tips, original meditations, and a fun and easy-to-follow fitness workout for each mindset. This revolutionary new method will help you rewire mind and body to take back your power. Get it on Amazon.
Are you overwhelmed with the burden of taking care of children, parents, or both? Are you taking care of everyone else except yourself? It's time to change your habits and re-energize. Debbie Mandel gives you an innovative and easy-to-follow program for good health and happiness. In her magical new book, Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, Debbie Mandel shows you step-by-step how to find the optimal balance between giving and receiving, and guides you to exercise and eat right to take care of yourself. What are you waiting for? Read Changing Habits and start training for your life. Life does not need to be a burden. Get Changing Habits, The Caregiver's Total Workout, on Amazon.
listening to the Turn On Your Inner Light show. I'm your host, Debbie Mandel, and I'm speaking with Russell Friedman, co-director of the Grief Recovery Institute and co-author of Moving Beyond Loss. Russell, what are some of the myths associated with the grief process, or maybe the myth that really annoys you the most?
Well, it's funny, when I recite our 6 myths that we put in all of our books and all of our lectures, all of our talks, I always say, and this one is the most pernicious of all. And I wind up saying that about all 6 of them. I can't figure out which is worst, which is best, and which is least harmful, because they all, as a collection, they're destructive. Let me preface this by saying grief is a normal and natural reaction to loss, yet the vast majority of what all of us learned about dealing with grief is not normal, not natural, and not healthy. Therefore, the myth help explain things that we've never questioned. Many of us have never questioned it. We need to question to see if they're helping us or hurting us, or helping us help our children or others in dealing with loss. So let's start with the first one, because it is the foundation garment here. A little girl comes home from preschool, could be a little boy, she's 3 or 4 years old. She has big tears in her eyes. Her mommy or daddy brilliantly says, "What happened, honey?" And the little girl tells the truth because she trusts her parents. And the mommy or daddy, and she says, "The other little girls were mean to me." At which point the parent makes a colossal error and says, quote, "Don't feel bad, honey. Here, have a cookie. You'll feel better." Now, Debbie, I'm going to ask you a question. Does a cookie make the child feel better, or does it make the child feel different? Pick one word.
Well, it would be different unless it's a chocolate cookie. That's the way to my heart. Russell, I get over stuff real fast with chocolate.
No, but, don't get over. You distract yourself, push it out of the way. The unhappiness is still underneath. Obviously, brilliant answer, but the real answer is, while giving the child the cookie distracts the child from the thing, they never get to talk about it, and it stays buried. Plus the fact that a couple of messages are delivered. The idea that by saying don't feel bad, you're implying that feeling bad is bad, and yet feeling bad or feeling sad is the most normal reaction to a painful loss event of any kind, whether it's hurt feelings or a death or a divorce. It doesn't matter. Hurt is hurt. And so the parent has instructed the child not to feel that way and set up a lifetime possibility and probability of teaching their child to medicate their feelings with substances. Now, Debbie, I'm sure I don't need to tell you that we have a huge problem with drugs and alcohol and food in this country. You realize that every year in America there are 250,000 obesity-related deaths? Can you and I draw a direct linkage between don't feel bad, here, have a cookie, to people eating their feelings, trying to modify their feelings with food or alcohol or drugs? I mean, it's
other
just
things
pandemic.
Happen. You know what, Russell? You're right. And other things happen, too. People suppress feelings, and they think it's best to be stoic, and they disconnect. When I grew up, my parents were, like, okay, we're getting over this, no big problem, don't be a baby, don't cry. And I don't cry, I'm reptilian. But what I did do was, I guess, use my imagination to get over grief. But that would be me. But I can see your point that people self-medicate and they eat junk food for not just grief, Russell, stress. Anything stressful, people are eating junk food because it works for the short term.
Well, it
right?
works in the short term, yes. In our books, we in all of our books and our lectures, we talk about STIRBs. And a STIRB is a short-term energy-relieving behavior. Those are the things we do to try to alleviate that buildup of feeling. But the buildup of feelings is not solved by a cookie or gambling or sex or any of the standard STIRBs people use, or even the famous one called retail therapy, also known as shopping. That's a joke, but it's a true problem. If you and I are a couple and I hurt your feelings and you go out and shop, you don't fix anything between you and me, then you may have a problem paying for the things, and you got stuff you don't want, and you and I are still having a problem. So
we're having bigger problems now.
Yes, possibly bigger problems.
And if I'm keeping it from you, it's an even bigger problem. So we are really anything that we do out of balance. So let's say somebody is grieving and they've been taught, not to emote. Would you say that as an adult that exercise would help grief, on the physical plane?
No, because guess which category that comes under? When we say the biggest single STIRB, or short-term energy behavior, which is only illusion, me eating a gallon of ice cream doesn't fix my relationship with you. Now, exercise comes under the drugs and alcohol category. Remember those old, as the joke goes, endorphins? The endorphins that are raised by there, they energize you. It's like the kid eating the cookie. They energize you to put something in your body, but they don't fix the problem. So when you come back from a workout after you and I have a fight, is anything resolved between you and me? No. If I have hurt your feelings or you've hurt mine, that's still unfinished. So your workout may have got some stuff going on in your body. It hasn't fixed your heart. You're still resenting something I did.
You know what the workout does, though? It enables me to cool off the anger and have a good discussion with you.
Yeah,
that's what it does.
Now, let me play devil's. That's if I'm in the mood for forgiving you or whatever I need to do because of what you said to me. So assuming that we can both get on the same page, maybe it works. It's not a universal solution because it's indirect.
Maybe a side-by-side treadmill, Russell.
Having the men's and women's clubs be in one building together. But, as humorous as that is, it's not a universal solution. And when we're talking recovery or helping people, it has to be something that's applicable for everyone. And we have to remove the STIRBs, as we have to remove the myth of not feeling bad. We have to remove the most pernicious myth. Well, they're all. Let me say a sentence, Debbie. You put in the last word. I'm sure you'll know it. Laugh and the whole world laughs with you. Cry and you cry
alone.
Thank you. You were brainwashed like we were. That is not true, yet everyone believes it.
I don't believe it. I added your word. I think there's a lot of people who like to cry along with you, and not for the reason you might think, but because there's a toxic curiosity. Like we somehow like to comfort the person who's down, but when that person ascends, then people don't want to know you either. What do you think of them apples, Russell?
Well, I think it's interesting, but it's a different point. I think it's a different church and a different pew, although I agree with it in a different place. What we're getting at here is that if something wonderful and good happens to you, the most natural, normal, healthy reaction is what? You tell someone you want to share it. The equally, and again, this is a different point than you were making, is that when something sad happens, the most natural thing in the world is to tell someone. Hopefully someone safe that you can trust. We all want to communicate what is important that affects us. So anything that tells us not to do that, to grieve alone, that, leave her alone, she needs her space, and all of that, is contrary to our humanness, which needs an opportunity and a safe environment to communicate what's going on. Anything that stays trapped in the body is not good. So grieving alone, remember, I can tell you this. Here's a cliche. Grievers tend to isolate. Why? Not because it's natural, because they're taught. They're taught, don't burden others with your feelings. If you're going to cry, go to your room. Knock off that crying or I'll give you a reason to cry. So all of these things conspire along with the don't feel bad. And then the most pernicious one, as I've said 27,000 times, is the myth that time heals all wounds. And the best way to explain that is to ask people to imagine if you went out to your car and discovered you had a flat tire. Would you pull up a chair and sit down and wait for air to come back in your tire? Obviously not.
I'd start praying.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
You know what?
And that ain't going to fix the tire either.
But you know what, Russell? I just want to come back to this point that you made about this isolation. You know what I find that alienates people to? Illness. And that comes back to maybe an evolutionary perspective that when you're grieving or you're physically ill, you're weak. And what do weak animals do? They go off to be alone because they don't want to be vulnerable.
You bet. And I have a dog. I'm very involved in the dog world, and I absolutely concur with that, and I believe there's a human equivalent. It's not as obviously defined or obvious, but I agree with you. But in a world that's why you'll notice when I talked about isolation, when you get sad news, you want to tell it to someone you trust, who you're safe with. I added that language in because it's kind of part of what you've just brought up. If you don't feel safe, you won't tell them. But if you don't feel safe, you won't tell someone you're happy either, because you're afraid because even happiness can get smacked back in your face.
And it could arouse envy, and it could make you vulnerable in a different way. But also, do you feel that at some point when you keep talking about your sad feelings that you keep them alive? Because language is so powerful. And if I tell you, Russell, I'm crazy busy, I'm frazzled, let me tell you, I'm going to be that way because I'm giving myself that suggestion. Now, there's a certain point where you do want to talk about grief, but I have seen people grieve for years and years and years, and they keep talking about it, and they become the victim.
Well, absolutely. That becomes their identity. And here's a little secret. I agree with you 1,000%. That's not the secret. The secret is talking about grief makes you good at what? Talking about grief. And here's the problem. There's no recovery in it. I have nothing to do with grief. I'm the head of the Grief Recovery Institute. Grief recovery, not the Grief Institute. I almost never let people talk about their grief for the exact reasons you just enumerated. All it's going to do is make them worse. I have to shift them from grief to recovery and get them talking about their relationship with the person who died, not their relationship to their pain, which has become their identity. It's a trap. Well, you and I could probably talk for 1,000 days and never have an argument. It's just natural to understand this, and yet it's been covered up with these myths like time heals, which it can't. Be strong, which is a way of saying don't feel. Be strong for others, which is absurd. It's like being strong for others. So if I take an aspirin, will your headache go away? If I lift the weights, are you going to get muscles? So here's the choice. Instead of being strong, we give you a choice. You could be strong or you could be human. Pick one. And we're going for human. In spite of that thing.
I noticed you coaxed me with the answer because I was thinking, well, maybe I don't want... you're going to get strange answers.
Coasting is our middle name. We have to, but and we also want to make it clear that if you believe that time is going to heal you, then no, I can't help you. If you believe you shouldn't feel bad in the first place, I can't help you. If you believe you need to grieve alone, I can't help you. If you believe you have to be strong instead of human, what can I do from a recovery point of view? Yet in our recovery, we need to be communicating with other people to the point of view of being heard for what is unfinished for you. I mean, to get to the solution parts of all this, it's to discover and complete what was left emotionally unfinished by the death, the divorce, or any other loss. So we have a motive in helping people to find how to get to the things that are unfinished, not to talk about how bad they feel. And you know what happens to those people? I know you know this. Their world shrinks because after a while, everyone gets tired and says, "Oh, watch out for Mary. She's going to tell you again about her divorce from 15 years ago, or that her grandfather died and she's never gone." And
this has been wonderful. This has been wonderful because we're out of time together. I know that we didn't even touch on how children grieve differently than adults, and I'd like to have you on again with the show just for that, so we can address your work. How can we reach you?
You can email me directly, and so can your listeners at rfriedman@griefrecoverymethod.com. If they have any questions or concerns, but I would love to come on and do a whole show devoted to children and how they grieve and what we can do as adults to guide them.
Okay, thank you so much for being such an upbeat grief counselor. Certainly cheered. You have a marvelous laugh. And now,
thanks, Debbie.
And now for affirmation of the week. Sometimes you can access luck through what you're missing. And now for the latest medical trends. A recent study by a researcher at the Center for Studies on Human Stress at the University of Montreal suggests that bullying by peers changes the structure surrounding a gene involved in regulating mood, making victims more vulnerable to mental health problems as they aged. Perceived stress may predict future coronary heart disease risk from Columbia Medical Center. Watch your kitchen cupboards this season, and this is a new one for me, as thrill seekers look to common holiday baking ingredients for a high in cinnamon, nutmeg, even marshmallows. This is a trendy, risky behavior, particularly engaged by preteens. The envelope is always being pushed to create something new that will get attention, potentially create a drug-like effect, and can pass under the radar of law enforcement. So watch out. From the Ohio University, a desire for expensive high-status goods is related to feelings of social status, which helps explain why minorities are attracted to bling. And new research in the Journal of Nutrition suggests that music improves health and disease. Perhaps the most interesting aspect of music's healing properties is how widespread they are. For example, music also aided recovery time following strenuous exercise. Other studies show that fast-paced music can increase resting metabolism, which might help you lose weight. Well, we come to the close of another show. I have an educational website, TurnOnYourInnerLight.com, totally free. Subscribe to my free newsletter at TurnOnYourInnerLight.com, and this is what you're going to get. The radio shows with the guest expert emailed directly to you, taking you right into my site and to YouTube. A fresh new article on stress management, totally free, and also all those lovely health tips, fully delineated. I have so many, I just don't have the time on air to get through them, but you might find something that could help you out in your activities of daily living. So click on TurnOnYourInnerLight.com. It's free, it's fun, and you'll also see my book, Addicted to Stress. That is the buzzword of the time. Have a wonderful week and see you on the radio.